TFA fam, hope you all had a great Thanksgiving for those who celebrate the holiday. Kev is officially on to Christmas. I think he's been on to Christmas since November 1st, to be fair, but it is week 12. It is the Friday edition of the live start or sit show. Got a couple questions in the chat already, so if you're joining us and you want to get your question there, go ahead and throw them in. But Kev, how was your Thanksgiving? How'd your DFS day go?
Injuries killed me. I had a lot of DeAndre Swift. I had some Darren Waller, so both of them getting hurt early in those games did not help. But I had a lot of Dak and a lot of Derek Carr, a little bit of Josh Allen. So it ended up working out. I was on the right game. So it did. I ended up pretty much breaking even. So it could have been a much better day, I think, had those two not gotten hurt, because it brought down some of my lineups. But still, overall, it was still a pretty good day. Ate a lot of food, enjoyed that. So we had the one good game, other than the 28 fucking penalties in the Cowboys and the Raiders game. That was ridiculous. Yeah. But the other two games weren't that great. So,
did you go anywhere? Do you cook? How do you do your Thanksgiving?
Went to my I go to my mom's. Went to my parents, my mom and dad's. Go over there. I went over there about 2. Stayed till about 7:30 or 8 and went home. So caught the second half of the Bills game.
Nice.
So
I hope everybody else got to enjoy their day, Abraham. I hope you had a good day as well. Let's jump into these questions. C. Crip kicking things off. Boris been sitting in the chat for about 20 minutes pre-show, so hope you're still sitting with us, Crip. Need 2 in a full PPR. Pittman, Gibson, Fournette, and Sanders. Already starting Mooney, Allen, and CPAT. I think CPAT is questionable, correct?
Yes. I'm going to go Pittman and Miles Sanders here. We got the news that Jordan Howard is out, so that's obviously a bump for him. And I don't think it really mattered anyways. I know Sirianni said that he actually sat him twice in the last game, once because of a fumble, once because he didn't go out of bounds like he should have, or didn't stay in bounds like he should have to run clock. But other than that, he basically, indicated that he is the lead back in this offense. Great matchup against the Giants. And this is one of the most run-heavy, actually, over the last 6 weeks, this is the most run-heavy offense in the league. And so just having Jordan Howard out of the way just kind of opens things up even more for Miles Sanders, already in a great matchup. So I think this is a big Miles Sanders week. So I like Miles Sanders a lot. I think Fournette is an okay play. I'm not thrilled with the matchup against the Colts. Colts are one of the best run defenses in the league.
Yeah.
But, he does get a lot of involved in the passing game, so that might bail him out a little bit there. And then Antonio Gibson, I like the matchup against Seattle, but I just like Miles Sanders' matchup a little bit more and his usage a little bit more. So that's the 2 I would go with.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And Sanders seems pretty cheap on DFS as well for me to throw my 2 cents for
absolutely
for whatever that's worth.
Him and Saquon are both entirely too cheap. Saquon's only 6,300 in that same game. So,
Jesus, I didn't realize that. That's crazy. E.T. feeling good about my week. Wilson at QB, JT and Javonte at running back, Keenan, Chase, Knox, Pat's defense, Lockett at flex.
I mean, a solid lineup. Hopefully Ross bounces back. Gonna need that. That's the only one that really worries me. With Javonte, I really think this is the week that he very well could take over this backfield. They're coming off the bye. He actually had his highest usage the week before the bye. Melvin Gordon fumbled in that game. And there's been the coaching staff has talked up Javonte a lot over the bye about getting him more involved, getting him even more involved than he's been. And so I think this could be the week Javonte takes over. Now, anything can happen. This coaching staff has been terrible to this point. So I don't know if I 100% believe it. But regardless, still in a fantastic matchup against the Chargers. And I think this could be, like I said, this could be the week. So I would be like, prior to this week, I would be really going out and trying to acquire Javonte because it's not going to cost a whole lot because he hasn't done a whole lot. Or he's not like he's been somebody that's really crushed. And I think he could absolutely be the league winner that we all thought he could be over the second half or the last part of the season.
I'm here for it. ET, let us know if you have any worthwhile bench options to throw, and we'll see if there's someone we'd rather slide in. But can't imagine there's going to be too many guys we'd rather have over what you have already. So, hey, appreciate you kicking it with us all the time. Let's go. I don't know how I feel about Penn State being favorites on the road to Michigan State. Just, I don't know. I just never know how to feel about this team. I just really hope Drew Allar does not transfer out between now and next year.
Did you watch Tyler Batey just wreck shop again today? Rack up over 200 more yards. First running back in SC history to ever have 5 games in a season with 200 rushing yards.
I did not.
Did you not know that? See, you should. Listen, Tyler Batey, I think he could be like a like a third round pick next year in upcoming draft. He has been the fucking man and is going to win the first team all SEC at running back. And, to be honest with you, he's not going to get it, but should have some consideration for the Heisman with how well he's played this year.
Kevy. There you go. There we go. Aaron Jones, limited practice all day this week, or every day this week. It just always, I just never understand when coaches bring players back right before a bye like this.
My thought is I don't think he plays. And I think he doesn't play because the Packers have one of the most cautious medical team there is. And I think they will err on the side of caution in bringing him back. They have A.J. Dillon, but I will say A.J. Dillon really hasn't looked great. But he hasn't also really been in great game scripts either through those 2 weeks. But Aaron, I think it's possible. I mean, he has practiced every single day this week, and there's been a lot of reports saying that he's looked great. And it was a minor injury. I mean, it's not like this was some sort of, but is it really worth him coming out there whenever you have, you get through this week, now you're on bye, you give him another week, boom, now he's 100% healthy, ready to go. And that's why I don't think he plays this week, but I don't know. Because, he has practiced literally every day this week. And so, I was sort of surprised. I thought even at most, maybe he gets, maybe because they get him in for a Friday practice, something like that. But no, he's practiced every single day. So I do think there's a possibility, but they've said it's a game time decision. But I just feel like, which is the tough part, because this is a 3:00 game. This is not, a noon game. So for people to have to make that decision, if we don't get the news prior to, it could be a tough one. I would hope that you have another option waiting to go.
Yeah, a little surprised that game is only sitting at a 47-point total as well.
There are no really high totals on this week. There's very low totals throughout. So it's going to be a different week.
Yes, it's really odd. Walito, appreciate you coming through with the $5 holla. Yeah, Kev has been on the Christmas for a while. This is all just a formality.
Like Bill Belichick says, we're on to Christmas. So, we got the halftime show, which is Thanksgiving, out of the way. It was good. We enjoyed it. Now we're on to the main event, Christmas.
Merry Christmas. You've seen that. You had to see that video. Okay. Merry Christmas. Mr. Wong flexing a PPR, Gibby or Hollywood?
I'm going to go with Hollywood Brown, I think.
Thought for sure you were going Gibson. I'm also going. I'm going Hollywood as well.
It's really funny because the last show we did, there was a lot of David Montgomery questions. I feel like we almost always were not David Montgomery. And after the game, I'm like, you know what? Feels good. Feels good that we weren't on David Montgomery because he did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, like I said, I think Thomas, who's in here now, I think he asked us about the props for that game. I said, like Montgomery, but I like Mooney better. Didn't end up putting anything on Mooney. He ended up having his fucking over in the first quarter on 3 catches. But I'm glad I pumped the brakes on Montgomery as well. Thankfully that did work out.
Yeah, well, I mean, too, with him, he also, he did have he should have had what would have been a touchdown, but that it didn't come to fruition on. I think it was like a slant or something they should have hit him on, and he did not. I think there was a penalty called on it. I can't remember exactly what happened, but it was close. But other than that, he really had no opportunities whatsoever the rest of the game to score. So. I love how CHP puts that in there next day one pick. Like we've been riding with Ty Johnson all year.
So I was just looking to see if there was anything on Marquise Brown. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Limited practice all week. He's questionable, but should be good to go.
So start 3 running backs: Ty Johnson, Rex, Damian Harris, Ramondre, Hilliard, and Foreman. This is a group here.
That is one way to put it.
Adrian Peterson is gone.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about him. And then you have the 2 Patriot running backs. Rex Burkhead. Not a thing that I thought we were going to be talking about this year, but here we are. Oh, man, this is tough. I think I would go Ty Johnson, Ramondre. And I think Hilliard. Just because I think he's going to be – because, listen, this team is it's not good. They're going to be without A.J. Brown. That's a fucking problem. They have nobody to throw the ball to. And – so I think at the best they're probably going to be trailing. They're going to be playing from behind, and Hilliard showed that he's probably the pass catcher here in this backfield. And so as long as it's PPR, I would probably want to go with him. I like Ty Johnson in this matchup, and then I want to go with one of the Patriots running backs.
Yeah, we saw what the Titans did the last time they were in a situation like this where they didn't have any receivers to play. And that was a week that Jeremy McNichols, I think, got 7-8 targets, something like that in that game. So maybe we see something similar there with Hilliard. So I agree with you there. Man, I just wish the Patriots didn't put every fucking player on the injury report.
Here's another question with this group of, since we could probably have this conversation with this this great group of running backs, would you, if DJ Dallas was available, would you rather play him over any of these guys? Because so I'll say this with their running back group right now, their running backs are not trending in the right direction. Rashad Penny hasn't practiced all week. Travis Homer did not practice today. Alex Collins only got in a limited practice today. So DJ Dallas is the only one that actually practiced all week. And, he's somebody that I've been advocating for people to go run out and pick up because I actually think he could be a factor rest of season. With all that being said, is he somebody that you would rather play over this group? Anybody in this group?
I think you're just adding another turd to the shit pile.
Hey, do not disrespect DJ Dallas in that manner, okay?
It's just another guy you don't feel great about.
Well, you don't feel great about any of these guys, but at least with him,
that's what I'm saying.
The thing with him that I would prefer him a little bit over maybe the Hilliard, Foreman, or even the Damian Harris from Andre is I really don't know how that's going to spread, how that's going to come out, right? With Harris, I can see Harris leading the backfield. I can see Ramondre leading the backfield, right? They're both kind of the same guy in terms of what they do. I think Ramondre is a little bit more of the pass catcher, but I don't really think they're going to be throwing the ball very much, with this offense or this Titans team they're going to be facing. Same thing with the Titans running backs. I don't think I can trust Foreman because I don't think that he's going to get the type of workload that you're going to look for because they're probably going to be trailing. Hilliard is the one guy that I don't mind. I will not bring myself to play a Texans running back. And, whether it's Rex Burkhead or whether it's David Johnson or whoever else it could be, because they just keep cycling through players, random running backs that they have. And then Ty Johnson's the only one that I feel the safest about just because of his role secured in the passing game there in that game. So, like with DJ Dallas, I feel like that he actually has what very well could be the lead back in an offense that should be much better than what it is, Russell Wilson and these guys. And I think the opportunity is there for him to seize his backfield. And so, like, of all the guys here, like, I would probably feel like better or at least second best when it comes to him, at least in terms of just being confident in playing one of these guys. Obviously, Damian Harris, Ramondre, those are the best options just because of the offense they play on. But you're going to pick one, and you're probably going to be wrong because both of them are probably going to split this backfield touches.
Yeah. I mean, Dallas could take over, but at least we know one of those Patriots, like both those Patriots backs, are going to get touches. I think it's a split backfield. So I'm going to go Hilliard, I guess Ty Johnson, and then give me Ramondre. Is how I would go. I like picking up Dallas and stashing him to see how that goes this week, or to see if something changes next week. But I think I'd rather just roll with one of the Pats running backs.
I'll wait for that. Man, we spent a long time talking about that group.
I feel like we did that on Wednesday as well. Just like the grossest group is where we ended up having the most discussion. Emil wants to know outlook on Kareem Hunt.
I mean, he's back. He's going to be right back in the same role that he was in. He's a weekly RB2 every single week. And, I mean, it's not a terrible matchup against the Ravens, especially one where could push the pace a little bit and force them to throw the ball a little bit more, which we know that better suits Kareem Hunt. So, I think Kareem Hunt is great RB2 moving forward.
Yeah.
He was I think he was like RB7 whenever the injury happened. So, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was. I think he was for sure an RB1. So he's back in his old role. Thomas does not understand the Elijah Moore hype. Yes, he's balled out recently, but isn't Corey Davis Zach Wilson's go-to target? I mean, there has been the rapport between Davis and Wilson, but that team is bereft of explosive playmakers. Like, they need to get Elijah Moore the ball. He is clearly their best playmaker. Corey Davis, really solid wide receiver, didn't pan out from what we all thought he was going to be coming into the league. I think Davis is a really nice number 2. I'm not sure Elijah Moore is a number 1 by any means either, but he is the most explosive offensive asset that they have, and they have to get him the ball. So that is why that there is the hype on Elijah Moore. So you go Corey Davis and Elijah Moore on the outside, let them be your 2 outside guys, and then throw Crowder, Keelan Cole, whoever it is in the slot. But that is why that there is the hype on Elijah Moore. Had a really nice collegiate profile, big time athlete, and now he's finally starting to get the playing time. So. And in a team that's going to be playing from behind, there's going to be plenty enough of targets to go around. No Michael Carter for the next couple of weeks either. So the more hype is warranted.
Well, and some of that's not necessarily accurate either in terms of his favorite target, because if you look at Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore earlier in the year, because obviously he only played 1 through 5 and then week 7. But if you look in those weeks, I mean, he had 8 targets week 2. He had 3 targets week 6. He did not play week 4, so he was not involved there. And then he barely played week 5 against Atlanta. I think he left with an injury in that game. as well. But so with Elijah Moore, like I don't think that some of that really fits. Obviously Zach Wilson, when he played, was fucking bad. I mean, he was terrible. He had the one game against Carolina week 1 in the second half where he played well. And then he had the one game against Tennessee, where he was okay, threw for almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception in that game. But other than that, he threw for 210 yards, no touchdowns, 160 yards, no touchdowns, 192 yards, no touchdowns, 51 yards, no touchdowns. So it really just depends what Zach Wilson we get, coming out of this. Obviously every quarterback he's played with so far, and he's played with a lot of different ones. Elijah Moore has with Joe Flacco, Mike White, Josh Johnson. I mean, he's produced with all of them. And so it really, if he doesn't produce, it's a Zach Wilson thing. It's not Elijah Moore thing. And I will also add in Elijah Moore, or for Corey Davis. He is also questionable for this week with a groin injury. So we'll see, because he did not practice. Let's see. Davis limited practice on Wednesday and Friday with a DNP on Thursday. He's listed as questionable. So
yeah, he got injured during practice on Wednesday.
Yeah.
DNP, and then got back to limited capacity yesterday. So that seems like he should be okay to go. Yes, the Elijah Moore hype is warranted, Thomas.
He's that good. Yeah, he was arguably a top 3, top 4 wide receiver prospect coming out.
Yeah.
In this draft. So yeah.
With Swift hurt, is Jamal a league saver?
I don't think DeAndre Swift's going to be out that long. DeAndre Swift could play next week. I mean, They said it was a really minor injury, and so I think he'll be fine. I think he'll probably end up playing next week.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's going to miss much time. The report came out today that he is day to day with that shoulder injury. So not unfortunately easy money. I don't think he's going to be the league saver that you're looking for. ET, drop one of your defenses and drop one of your kickers.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, other than that, I like you could probably drop Tanny as well.
Yeah. There's zero reason to hold Ryan Tannehill, especially with all the injuries they have to that offense. And I just, at this point, unless your quarterback has a bye coming up, and that's the only reason you were holding him, even I still wouldn't advocate for that. But even if you did, there's no. But if your quarterback's already had their bye, absolutely drop him. There's no reason to have Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, he has Wilson, so he's.
Yeah, so I absolutely dropped him. And then you said Hawk as a backup tight end.
Knox.
So there, you're probably not dropping either one of them. I wouldn't want to drop either one of those guys.
Yeah, I'm fine holding both those guys, especially if you drop Tanny, one of the kickers, and one of the defenses. You're still going to open 3 spots, so you can carry 2 tight ends there. That's what I would do, Eric. Yeah, there was a report that came out, Noel, that the Cowboys, potentially might be resting Zeke. So at least that would make your start sit conundrums a little bit easier there with having both Zeke and Pollard. And Pollard's been looking good.
He has. He looks far more explosive than Zeke Elliott has. Really, this entire year, in my opinion. But man, but I'll say this: that contract they have for Zeke just looks worse and worse every single year that this happens. Not that I'm saying that Zeke's done or anything like that, but they have to pay him again next year because he has a $30 million dead cap next year. And after next year is when they finally can get out from under that contract. And it's just why you never should pay you should never pay any running back. I don't care what their name is. It just doesn't work in the long run of really paying a running back, especially once they get up there at age. It's just, they're so interchangeable. You don't need to pay a running back. I don't care what their name is. It doesn't matter who they are. Todd Gurley is a good example of that, right? Todd Gurley a few years ago was, man, this guy's the man. And he was young. He's still young now. He's like 26. I mean, he's not even old, and the guy's pretty much out of the league. And now he has a little bit different circumstance with his arthritic knee, but still, like, just so often running backs just don't last. So there's no point in paying them the amount of money that they get paid. Like, Zeke is stealing money from the Cowboys. And like I said, when their backup running back is producing just as easily as he is, it's just all you need to know,
Yeah. And a backup running back who didn't have anywhere near the the pomp and circumstance that Zeke did whenever he came out.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not talking about another Gurley, Zeke, Saquon level.
If the Raiders were doing it right, or the Cowboys were doing it right, they would have drafted Jalen Ramsey, and then they would have drafted Derrick Henry in the second round. They could have done that. They didn't.
New Life wants to know our thoughts on Van Jefferson. I believe he'll be a distant third as if Woods was still playing.
Well, I don't know if I would call him a distant third. I mean, he was getting action. I mean, he's been getting action all year. He's been a viable flex option most weeks. And
just been a little up and down with his targets.
Yeah, he's a little bit tougher to trust. You know, on a week to week basis, he's not a every week producer, but he's somebody that you've been able to kind of stick in there and feel okay about. He does only have 2 weeks or 3 weeks this year of double digit fantasy, or excuse me, 4 weeks of this year of double digit fantasy points. He scored 16 in week 1, and then you have to go to week 4 where he scored 21, and then week 7 to 14, week at 11, and week 8. So he's been a little bit harder to trust, but he only really has, I mean, he has a couple weeks where he scored like 8 or 9, which isn't terrible, but isn't really great either. But so, I mean, I think he's still a decent option. And if something were to happen to one of these wide receivers, which Odell has been nursing an injury for most of the year, something happens to one of these guys, and instantly he becomes, you know, a stud wide receiver too. So,
yeah, it all depends on how quickly Odell is able to pick up the playbook and all that stuff too. So, I still like him as a hold going forward. But Alex wants to know Fournette or J-Rob and a half PPR.
I'm going with James Robinson. Excellent matchup against the Falcons, utilizing the passing game. So, like I said, I don't mind Fournette this week because of his involvement in the passing game. But I just prefer I'd rather have James Robinson because other than that, it's not a great matchup on the ground for Fournette.
Yep, I agree. Oh man, a plus 3,000. That's rough. To be that close. To be that close and have that busted, that's tough.
I had like 75%. Did DeAndre Swift yesterday at DFS,
so you're feeling that as well. CHB wants to know Newton or Tyrod Taylor.
I actually like both of them as options this week, but I would go with Cam Newton.
Knowing Cam Newton there as well. New Life has another question. Your thoughts on Dillon and Stevenson this week?
It's going to really depend on what happens with Aaron Jones. If Aaron Jones plays, you know, Dillon's still going to be involved, and that's the thing with Dillon is whether Aaron Jones plays or not, or comes back the rest of the season, he's still going to have a role in this offense. It's not going to be as big as what it has been the last couple of weeks, but I still think Dillon still makes for a little bit of sense. Now it's not. The Rams' run defense hasn't been great this year. Like, it's very middle of the road, so it's not like a scary run defense or anything. They do have a really good defense, but their run defense isn't elite or anything like that. We should just be truly scared of. And then Stevenson's kind of the same thing, where he's more of just a committee, and so you know, on a week-to-week basis, it's gonna be a little bit harder to trust. We saw what he's able to do without Damien Harris, but still, while Damien Harris is there, I mean, this is probably going to be a full-on committee, so he's going to be harder to trust on a week-to-week basis too.
All that times 2. Abraham bringing the random question for the week. Would you rather be a legendary coach or a legendary player? Give me the player. For sure. Like, whenever you hear people talk about games, like, most aren't going to be like, man, you remember when Belichick called that fucking timeout and just totally... You know what I mean? Like, you're going to be more likely to be talked about as a player, I feel like.
Depends on how you're talking about. I mean, there's not as many coaches that I would consider like legendary coaches that are, you know, transcendent through time, where players, you know, obviously are different.
Like, no one's going back and watching highlights of Vince Lombardi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like no matter how many, you know, great players there are, like, you can still go back and see, you know, fucking YouTube Barry Sanders highlights.
How many players have a video game named after him though? None. Well, I guess there have been some. I should take that back. That's not really true. But
Not
one like John Madden, like Madden. But I know there's like Joe Montana football, and there's some other ones I can't remember. So I guess there has been some. But anyways, who would I? I don't know. I think that's tough. But I think I'd rather be a player.
Yeah, that was easy for me. Let me be the one on the field that people are there to watch. No one's going to games to watch Chuck Knoll. Anyway, on to the start sit. CB wants to know, am I crazy if I start J-Rob over Chubb at a PPR? Already started Zeke and Gallup in my flex.
I don't think that it's crazy. Because James Robinson's so much more involved as a pass catcher than Nick Chubb is, and especially with Kareem Hunt back, that, hurts a little bit. But I
match up on J-Rob's side as well.
Yes. Because with Kareem Hunt back, I have Nick Chubb ranked 8th, and I have James Robinson ranked 11th. So I do have a little bit of a difference, but just because I feel like the touchdown equity upside is probably a little bit higher for Chubb. But I mean, for shooting for upside, I think, you maybe, James Robinson makes a little bit more sense just based off matchup.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you're behind in your game, you know what I mean? Like Gallup played okay. I think he put up like 12, 13 points. If I remember correctly.
He should have had like 17 or 18. And a full PPR.
Okay.
Yeah, which this is. Because he had 5 or 6 for over. I know he had over 100.
Yeah, anyway, I would just, that's how I would base this one, CB. It's just dependent on how you're feeling about your matchup. If you want to shoot upside, go J-Rob. But if you need to save points, I still think Chubb has a solid game. Walito, listen.
Take your negativity. We've seen. I mean, yeah, Denzel Mims. Sad. Hate to see it. All I was gonna say with it too, though, is Nick Chubb has really destroyed the Ravens in his career. Was it last year that he had that monster game when the year before? Because I remember because the Browns just destroyed the Ravens, and Chubb went off in that game. I think he had like 2 scores. But anyways,
not ringing a bell. Uzuma DeGuara. What does your waiver wire look like? That is, I mean, I guess if I have to pick between those two, I'm definitely going Uzuma. Like, is Tyler Conklin available?
What about Evan Ingram?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably rather go Evan Ingram in that spot.
Terrific matchup. I mean, if he is, terrific matchup against Philly. Philly is league worst against tight ends. Also, Kyle Rudolph is doubtful in that game as well. He's not expected to play. So Sterling Shepard and Kadarius Toney could both be out for that game as well. So if Evan Ingram were to be available, I would much rather have him. But if not, then I would go Uzuma. Yeah,
be Conklin, Ingram, Uzuma for me in that order. Wayne Kerr has a standard question. One of the New England backs, Elijah Moore, Van Jefferson, David Johnson. We need 2. So not David Johnson.
I'm going Elijah Moore.
Who are you going for the other one?
You know what I actually don't mind is actually playing Harris and Stevenson together. Just getting all of the equity from that backfield. But if I had to choose, I'm going to go Stevenson, but it's really close. I could see either one of them doing well. But
yeah, I'm going to go Moore and Stevenson. Man. If it's like it's a bad matchup, would you do that? Would you plug both Pat's backs in?
Yeah, I mean, you're essentially just because this game projects to be an absolute just disaster for the Titans, and I think you see both these guys get really heavily involved in this running game, and so then you just soak up all the usage in this backfield. I mean, if you look at the last time they played, which was against the Falcons, in that game, which is very similar to how I would project this game going, is you had 12 carries from Stevenson, 10 carries from Damian Harris. Harris played 42% of the snaps. Stevenson played 27% of the snaps. Neither one of them scored, so that would be the downfall. Neither one of them scored in this game, where they scored 7.5 and 8.5 fantasy points combined. So that obviously wouldn't be ideal, but I have to figure one of these guys is going to score a touchdown or multiple touchdowns in this game. So with the options that you have, the only thing that worries me with Elijah Moore is just with it being non-PPR, if he doesn't score, he's not nearly as, as enticing. But I do like Elijah Moore a lot this week. But, I don't mind that route as an option.
B-Dubs, do we think Henry makes it back in time for the fantasy playoffs? I mean, that's right. That's right around the time that his original timeline was. I don't recall seeing any other updates or any other news that has come out since then. But I think it was like he was looking to be back like right around the end of the playoffs. I feel like the very earliest was like at the beginning, but more likely was like week 16, week 17.
The last update, no, actually now it's been further than that. The last one now is actually there's optimism and it's just optimism that Derrick Henry will be back in early January, which means no, he will not be back for the fantasy playoffs, which makes sense with this injury because I saw whenever a lot of people talk whenever this injury happened and there was the lower time frame, and most of the people were saying that's not going to happen. He's going to be out much longer than this, and so I would expect he's probably I think they probably bring him back for the playoffs.
Lupe, should I start Bourne or Van Jeff in the flex? We're digging deep here, boys.
I'm gonna go Van Jefferson. I don't think the Patriots really need to run the ball or really throw the ball that much in this game.
Yeah. Van Jeff for me as well. The dribble god. Have A.J. Brown at the flex? No, you don't. Who should I start? Van Jefferson, Rashad Bateman, Kadarius Toney, or Kenny Golladay?
I'm going to go Rashad Bateman just because Toney is very questionable to play in this game. Didn't practice today.
Garrett being fired.
Yeah.
Which is it's not a bad thing, but you never know how teams are going to react on a short week like that. Could very well just be the same shit they've been doing. You know what I mean, with the short week to change everything. Maybe we see some changes going forward from Freddie Kitchens, but this is pretty easily Bateman here for me.
Yeah, and Darius Slay got cleared from the concussion protocol as well. So, that Kenny Golladay would probably be somebody that I would have been really interested in had that not happened. But with him being back, I don't mind Kenny Golladay because, one thing that, when I was kind of looking through some of the stuff for how this is going to look without Jason Garrett is he is going to be the Giants. You're going to see a lot more deep throwing. When he took over as the OC of Cleveland a couple of years ago in 2018, their yards per attempt rose from 6.6 all the way up to like 8.8 over the final. I think it was like the final 8 weeks of the season. And actually, Baker Mayfield, played his best. They went 5-3 over that span whenever they came back, and they really started pushing the ball downfield. And so I think that's something you can expect a little bit more, which is obviously good news for somebody like Kenny Golladay. But just in this 1 week in this matchup, I would prefer Rashad Bateman.
Myself as well. The trade deadline, Devontae Adams and Superman. Chase Golden, Diggs, Cooper tried to trade me Adams and Connor for CMC Chase. My God. Some people's kids. Abraham, did you put the message in your chat thanking your league on Thanksgiving for being a bunch of jagaloons and you being able to rip them off and pull off these great trades? I need the update on that. Uzi's playoffs are starting next week. What? Wow. Okay, top team lost Henry, Carter, now Swift, have Harris, Ty Johnson, Stevenson left, and running back. So I make a move for RB. Uzi, let us know what the rest of your squad looks like.
Yeah, and I think that...
And it also depends if that's Naji Harris or Damian.
Yeah, that's a big difference too.
Big difference. But yeah, let us know what the rest of your squad looks like.
And it does sound like I've said, I mean, it sounds like DeAndre Swift very well, especially with that game being on Thursday, them getting the extra time in there to rest. I think it's probably pretty likely he plays next week.
What about Everett? Would you pick him up? Doesn't seem like Conklin or Rudolph are available.
I don't mind him as an option. If you look, week 10 and 11, he played 74% of the snaps and 85% of the snaps. And then week 10 against Green Bay, he ran 33 routes, was targeted 8 times. And then last week, he ran 23 routes, 4 targets, scored 14.3 and then 6.7. So actually, I think he's the tight end that I would go after in a game against Washington.
Yeah. Waddle or Gibson, half PPR in the flex for Alex.
I'm going Jalen Waddle.
Mm-hmm. I prefer Gibson slightly, but I don't mind Waddle.
Yeah, I like both these guys, but
yeah,
Waddle just sees so many damn targets every single week. It's hard to really even think about sitting him.
Yeah, like I said, with the touches that Gibson has been seeing, matchup bodes well for him. I lean Gibson, but I wouldn't, Alex, I wouldn't hate you if you sided with Kev on that one. Jordan Isaacs wants to know Odell or Judy in a full PPR needs this dub. Big week for Jordan. Who do you got, Kev? I'm going to go Judy just because I don't know what to expect yet from Odell. And it's not like, Robert Woods has been in that system for how long? And he was usable, 2 weeks during it? No, obviously, I think we all probably think that Odell probably has the higher talent level, better athlete and all that, but asking him to come in after 3 weeks and be better than what Woods was is a difficult ask. So I'm going to roll with Judy on this one. I don't want to see another week out of Odell to see how he's utilized before I plug him in over somebody like Judy.
I'm going to go with Odell. Sean McVay talked about him this week and said that he is going to be a very big part of their game plan this week, which McVay's not really one of those guys that kind of bullshits. Usually what he says is usually pretty spot on. They had the entire bye to really work on things, get him more acclimated in this offense, become more accustomed to this offense. I can't see them. And this is a big game for both these teams because this is for, big game for for playoff purposes and everything else. And so I lean Odell, and he also has the better matchup too. All of the possible corners at Judy, because the Chargers have been excellent against the pass this year. It's really has been the run that's really where they've struggled. And so I don't think Jair Alexander is going to play this week. So I would just lean towards Odell.
Yeah, I mean, if you need the win, you got to swing for the fences. Odell certainly probably has the higher ceiling. I think Judy probably has the safer floor. Alexis rocking with us. If Barkley ends up playing, which he should, Mike Williams or Eli Mitchell?
I think she said if Barkley ends up not playing. Barkley is 100% playing.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any reason. But just in case, for Alexis, since she's been rocking with us all year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll answer the question, but I was just saying he's 100% playing. There's no reason to be worried about him not playing. I would go with Elijah Mitchell here.
Yeah, but he's also a game time decision, Alexis. So pay attention to that. If Saquon, oh my God.
We'd be talking about a millionaire right now with Uzi.
Well, Uzi crushes NBA, right?
Yeah. No, it was brutal last night because I had a few really good lineups, and they had Swift in them. So like I said, I still about broke even. But they would have been real big winners had Swift not gotten hurt. And he was starting off. I mean, he got targeted. And it was such a weird injury because when it happened, I didn't really see anything. I was like, well, what did he hurt? What's going on? Because it didn't look like it was anything serious. And then once they kind of slowed it down and replay, saw what it was. I was like, oh. Yeah. But I was hoping he was going to come back, but it didn't happen.
So CHB brings this up. I forgot that already had Wilson and Lockett. Would you triple dip? Still probably your best option.
Yeah, because the tight ends, they don't need that much to pay off, to be honest. So even if he goes 4 for 40, which isn't in most areas a great game, if he gets you 8, you're happy. I mean, tight ends just don't typically score that many fantasy points. So, if he can get you 8 for this week, you're happy and get you through.
Here you go, Kev. Right down your alley. Ty Johnson, Harris, or Stevenson, half PPR.
I'm going to go Ty Johnson.
I wish they would be in. See, this is what I'm saying. I hate that you have Harris questionable with the neck, you have Stevenson questionable with the knee, and this might not be the game script where Ty Johnson comes out and takes all the pass catching away from Tevin Coleman. Then you have Zach Wilson coming back, and he wasn't really checking down to running backs before he got injured as well. But at least Ty Johnson's role is clear, right? Like, we don't really have any questions with that.
I mean, I think Ty Johnson very well could be the lead back and not just somebody who's just a pass catcher. He's more than capable, more than big enough to be that. And I just don't really know how much you're going to be. I mean, it's Tevin Coleman, that he has to beat out. And so, and I do think that you probably see them playing from behind. I mean, this Houston offense has been good enough to be able to, they just beat the Titans. They won earlier in the year against a bad Jaguars team. And so I do think you probably see them take a lead here in this game. So It is tough. If one of them were rolled out, obviously, if one of these Patriots running backs
Yes.
were rolled out, you're going with the Patriot running back for
Yeah.
sure. It's not even a question. It's just tough to trust with either one of these. I feel like whichever one you pick, it could be the other guy because whatever one finds the end zone is really where it's going to be. So I just think Ty Johnson's a little bit more clear.
Yeah, I agree on that one. R&D, what's going on, man? Thoughts on Henderson's matchup against the Packers? Start him or bench him for Devonta Freeman? I cannot bench him for Devonta Freeman.
Yeah, and you're talking about a Cleveland team that with a pretty solid defense as well.
Yeah,
it's not really a great matchup there either.
Right. We're not talking Devonta Freeman against the Jets.
And Green Bay, actually, their rush DVOA is not very good. They're 26th in rush DVOA on the season. So this is not a defense that you're really all that concerned with being able to run against.
Yeah. Much I don't want to say much better offense, but you're not worried about Henderson not being in scoring position or anything like that. So still rocking with Hendo there. Mitch O'Leary traded Cup for CPAT, Nyuk, and Jefferson. Which Jefferson?
I'm assuming it's Justin Jefferson.
Just odd that he's listed last.
I mean, I can't imagine we're talking about Jamar Jefferson.
Van Jefferson.
Oh, I didn't think of that one. Yeah, that one that probably makes more sense.
Let's assume it's Justin. I don't hate it.
I don't hate it, but Cordero with the high ankle sprain, really, I don't love that. Just even running backs when they come back from high ankle sprain, they typically don't look the same, at least for 2 or 3, 4 weeks, just to kind of get them back. So like I don't hate it, but I would rather have Cup just because I know what Cup brings to the table. Now, if that's Justin Jefferson, then I think you probably did pretty well because Justin Jefferson's not that far behind Cooper Kupp, but Cooper Kupp has just been next level good this year. He's been on another planet.
Every single week.
But if Cordell Patterson can come back and be healthy and be the Cordell Patterson he's been, plus with Nyuk really starting to catch, hit his stride. Now, that's Van Jefferson. You took it L.
Yes. 100%. Double B. Ty Johnson or Javonte?
I'm gonna go Javonte here.
Yeah, definitely Javonte in a really nice matchup as well. Playoff challenge this year. Yeah, we can do another one.
Yeah, it was fun last year. Who won last year? I was pretty close to winning. I know that.
I can't remember. We sent like 3 jerseys away last year. I can't remember who got what.
Yeah, I don't remember what the final was, but I know I was pretty close.
I can't remember. Yeah, we'll definitely do another one. We'll announce that whenever it gets closer to that time. We'll come up. We'll probably do another jersey giveaway for that as well. It seems to be the easiest thing that everyone also enjoys. Okay, so here's Uzi's roster with his playoff starting next week. So you have Mahomes, Harris, Stevenson, Jefferson, DJ Moore, Mooney, Devonta Smith, Robbie Anderson, Elijah Moore.
So you're going to give Mahomes against the Broncos. I think Swift plays, but Derrick Henry doesn't matter. Michael Carter doesn't matter.
So it was D. Harris.
Yeah.
So
I think you're okay with Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, and Mooney here in this and Devonta Smith. Really, you're really solid at wide receiver actually with Elijah Moore. I don't know if your trade deadline's passed. If it has, you're kind of screwed. But if your trade deadline is not passed, I honestly, because you have so many good wide receivers that I think you could take like an Elijah Moore who has really been on a heater and try to trade him. And like I said, you're not going to be able to get like an elite level running back. But even if you could get, I think like I've talked about, Javonte would be somebody that I definitely would be targeting. And I think you could probably get somebody if you could trade Elijah Moore for Deontay or Javonte, or maybe make it even kind of a package. And because if I had Harris and Stevenson, I would try to trade the duo together, because that's such a headache every damn week of trying to figure out who the hell you want to play here in that backfield. And so, but yeah, if your trade deadline's open, which it may not be, if your playoffs start next week, it may be over. But if it is, I would definitely be looking at making a move here, because you need a running back or you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest as well. And Elijah Moore is the name that popped into my head to move, or even moving somebody like Mooney. I mean, after he's been playing pretty well the past couple of weeks, see if you can sell high on him, send him away. Because like you said, Kev, with Jefferson, DJ, Devonta, you can afford to lose one of those guys. And I think even like a Miles Sanders would be someone who would be solid, who's also not going to cost too much either. Those would probably be the two targets that would come to my mind right off the bat, with Sanders and Javonte Williams. That way you can keep that core of receivers together. You're not making a crazy move and trying to package, Jefferson and
right. Then it's like I said, I think Swift plays next week, and so if he does, then it just gives you another solid running back, or at least a decent running back that you can play. But yeah, I think you need help running back. He also said he has Ty Johnson as well, but yeah.
Frankie, 3 out of the 4 in a standard. Evans, Hollywood, Jefferson, and Cooks.
Mike Evans. Which Jefferson is that? You know what,
Justin?
If it's Justin Jefferson, it's Evans, Justin Jefferson, and then Brandon Cooks. If that's not, then you include Hollywood Brown.
Going Cooks over
okay,
Hollywood.
Yeah, it is Justin Jefferson. Okay. Yeah, Brandon Cooks is going to smash, I think, this game against the Jets. Like, I absolutely love Brandon Cooks in this matchup. And because I could see, I like Hollywood Brown, but just with Bateman back, or in this offense now, it just kind of lowers his ceiling a little bit, because now there's just a third pass catcher. Game script could really go play into part here of, how many opportunities he sees, where Brandon Cooks is pretty much just always locked in. I mean, last week he only saw 3 targets, but that was mainly because of how bad, they were ahead, they were running. It was really disgusting out there, so they didn't have to throw the ball. But prior to that, I mean, you're talking about a guy who almost is a lock every week to see double-digit targets. So it's going to be hard for me not to play Brandon Cooks, even in a standard league. I know PPR doesn't matter as much, but his opportunity to score is pretty high.
Esteban wants to know Elijah Mitchell or Ramondre Stevenson. This is going to be Mitchell for me as long as he plays. Obviously, they said he's going to be a game-time decision depending on his comfort level with playing, but they do have a way to keep his finger protected. So as long as he plays, Esteban, that is definitely going to be Elijah Mitchell. Alex wants to know, here's where we are. Heineke or Russ?
I'm going Russ.
Yeah, if there's a get-right matchup, that's this one, right?
Yeah, for sure. The secondary's banged up. It is. I just think this game is going to be. It definitely should be one that this offense gets things turned around.
Yeah. Alex, appreciate you rocking with us. TB wants to know how we rank these 3 receivers rest of season in a PPR. Cooper, Mooney, Bateman.
I want to say Mooney ahead at first here, but I'm probably going to go Cooper, Mooney, Bateman.
That's how I have it as well. I have it how you listed this out here, Tony. It's
You know what? No, fuck it. I'm gonna go with what my head's telling me. I'm going Mooney, Cooper, Bateman. Mooney has been really good. I mean, really good, really for most of the year. I mean, he's been really solid on the season, and I think he's only going to get better. And this offense is starting to actually look a little bit better. The thing that always worries me with Cooper is he is just battling it out with all these other wide receivers. You know, next time they play, CeeDee Lamb will be back, Cooper will be back, Gallup's back. It's going to be a toss up of when it's going to, who's going to play well. The Bears offense, even with Andy Dalton last week, still wasn't terrible. Justin Fields will be back. You're expected to start week 13 against the Cardinals. So and their schedule the rest of the season is actually pretty solid too. So I'm going to go Mooney, Cooper, Bateman. It's really close between actually all three of them. I love all three of those wide receivers, but I just slightly lean towards Mooney. He is the guy in this offense. He's the wide receiver one. He's the alpha right now. Even when I know Allen Robinson should be back here sooner than later, but even when he does, he's been the alpha in this offense, whether Allen Robinson's been there or not. And so I just slightly lean towards Mooney over Cooper, but it's really close.
That hurts my soul to hear you say those words. I think if you're looking for the upside shot, it's with Mooney. I think Cooper is probably a little steadier week in, week out, but his ceiling is capped with obviously with Lamb and Gallup and Schultz being around as well. If you're shooting for straight upside, Tony, I don't mind.
Because with Cooper, you look at him. He had the one huge week 1, 38.9. And then after that, he had 5.4, 5.6, and then he had 15.9, 15, 10.5, and then another big week, 26.2, 5.7, 9.1. But then with Mooney, you have 7.6 week 1, 12.6, 1.9, which isn't great, 18.5, 15.5, 5.9, 12.4, 20.6, 23.1, and he had another 20 fantasy points this week. And so he's just been more consistent, especially over the last month and a half, 2 months of the season.
Yeah. Like I said, it's close. It's definitely close. Like saying Cooper first isn't by, there's not a tier break in between those two. I just feel it's just so hard to trust that Bears offense and Nagy. I feel like that this Cowboys offense, especially if Zeke is going to be out, if that offensive line is going to continue to be banged up, that they're going to have to switch something up and get Dak kind of playing how he was last year. We thought he was going to come in this year and be looking at another 700 passing attempts. That's kind of what we thought. So I don't mind going Mooney over Cooper. It is close, but I give the nod to Cooper because I just feel like I trust Dak in that offense a little bit more down the stretch. But maybe Bateman is third out of that group.
He had so let me ask you really quick because we're talking about this because he has another question and it just all ties right into it. He said, Mooney, I may have to pick up off waivers, but have to drop Cooper. I'm not dropping Amari. I don't want to drop Amari Cooper because you're just helping out somebody else in your team by giving him Amari Cooper. Like, if I had to drop somebody, I'm dropping Rashard Bateman to pick up Mooney is what I would do. I'm not dropping Amari Cooper. And
I feel like because in his question he said Mooney or Bateman, so I think he's looking to drop Cooper to get Mooney or
Bateman.
Well,
if that's the case, then yeah. I guess I don't know. Is that the only option you have, Tony? Is like that's it? Is Amari Cooper? Like you have to have somebody else that you could drop besides Amari Cooper, unless you have some sort of like weird league restrictions.
Yeah, is there a second QB,
a running back, something that you could do to make the move?
Because it probably doesn't have a second tight end because the other
and
with
that many players being on available, I would assume this is probably like an 8-10 team, 8-team league or something like that. So there's probably a little bit more in depth we had. And thoughts on Pitts for streaming tight end? I mean, he's a top 3 or 4 tight end because of how much opportunity he's seeing. So, I mean, I'm always cool with streaming, but unless you have one of those top guys, and you have one of those top guys, so
yeah. For show. Back to AO. Need two in the flex here. Ty Johnson, Hunt, or Stevenson.
Hunt. I'm going right back to the well. I'm going Ty Johnson.
I'm going to go Ty Johnson there as well. Then Anthony also needs one wide receiver, Sutton or Bourne.
I'm going to go Cortland Sutton. He actually gets the best matchup against Asante Samuel Jr., who has been, I don't want to say their worst corner, but hasn't he's been beatable. And then he would also, the second most, you would see Michael Davis, who has probably been their worst graded corner. So I just prefer Cortland Sutton here in this matchup.
Yeah. Are there any waiver-ish level wide receivers you can think of you might want to pick up and play? Like if Van Jefferson is available, would you rather have Van Jefferson over those two? Let's pull up the old ESPN list here.
I think Laviska Shenault is a place you could go.
Like
Gets Atlanta. I know he's widely available.
Yeah, I'd rather have Visca than those two.
What about Donovan Peoples-Jones?
He's questionable.
Right.
Still. I feel like I'd probably still go Sutton.
He missed Wednesday's practice, but practice on both Thursday and Friday. So,
man, I didn't realize Van Jefferson's up to 42% roster in ESPN now.
Yeah.
I
think Russell Gage possibly.
Like I'd rather play Jamison Crowder.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think I'd rather play Sutton. Yeah, Kadarius Toney's listed as doubtful.
Yeah.
So Kenny Golladay could possibly be an option because Kenny Golladay, I know, was less than 50% rostered, or at least he was. I don't know where he stands now, but I know on Monday he was. What about Darius Slayton? With both those guys out, with no, I mean.
I think I'd rather play T.Y. Hilton.
He was targeted 7 times last week against Tampa Bay.
Yes, some of those guys there are the guys that I think I'd rather play over. Man, Darius Slay down at 4% rostered in ESPN.
Yeah, that's kind of where I stand. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, see if you have some of those options available to you, Anthony.
I would, but for me personally, I'd probably still lean Sutton over all of them. Of guys that I definitely would want to play. And I actually, speaking of, again, we kind of talk about this, and this is something I try to hit on. Players that I want to add before waivers, because now, look at Matt Breida. Matt Breida is probably going to be one of the top waiver ads this upcoming week, especially now with what happened with Zach Moss being a healthy scratch, and Matt Breida continued to produce, scored another touchdown this week. And again, he's somebody that we've talked about, Matt Breida, that, I mean, he's been productive in his NFL career. Like I said, there for a while in San Francisco. I know there at one point he was leading the league in rushing. So he's a very competent running back. So, but for this week, again, I think guys that like to be ahead of waivers, DJ Dallas, I keep hammering the table for DJ Dallas. He very well could lead this backfield in touches, and he's probably the top waiver ad between him and Matt Breida. I think he is somebody that I definitely want to be looking to add. And then at wide receiver, I think Donovan Peoples-Jones. We've seen Donovan Peoples-Jones when he's healthy really be a really big producer. And he's somebody that I absolutely love, somebody that I've had stashed on my own fantasy teams now for the last week or two. Because I think that with him coming back healthy, I think he could be a big time contributor in this offense down the stretch.
Yeah, agreed on all of that. Sensei, Barkley or DK Metcalf?
Saquon. Listen, we just talked about all the wide receivers that are going to be hurt for the Giants.
Yeah.
Saquon is going to see a fuck ton of targets. Kind of like we saw, if you remember his best game he had on the season before he got hurt that week, I think he scored like 28, 29. It was a very, very similar situation to this. That was against New Orleans, and again, I think a lot of people were but in those 2 weeks, week 3 and week 4, his 2 best games where he saw 7 and 6 targets in each one of those games, scored in both of those games. This is a very kind of similar situation where that team was missing a lot of pieces. He had 16 and 13 carries in both those games, but he ran a ton of routes, 26 and 32 in both of those weeks. And again, they were missing so many pieces at wide receiver. He was seeing just a ton of opportunity there as a pass catcher. So I feel like this is a very similar situation here for Saquon. So I love Saquon this week. And so, yeah, I'm not sitting DK, or I'm not sitting Saquon for DK Metcalf, but I would ask, who's the other wide receiver you got? And honestly, with AJ Dillon, especially, you may get this question answered for yourself, because if Aaron Jones plays, you're sitting AJ Dillon anyway.
Yeah. I know one of those DK Metcalfs.
Oh, for sure.
6 for $150 and 2 are imminent. And this matchup against Washington is, you know what I mean?
And so could Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett could go off for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns this week. You know, the one of the big Tyler Lockett weeks could be coming too. I think it is. I think this offense is going to get better. That's why I asked, though, too. Like, what other wide receivers are you playing that you just can't play DK Metcalf? Or I would honestly consider, even if AJ Dillon plays, I would still consider possibly. I think it's more of a conversation AJ Dillon to DK Metcalf, in my opinion, of who you're playing.
Yeah. I would agree there.
Because would you play? I would personally play DK Metcalf over AJ Dillon in that situation.
Yeah. Yep. There you go, Sensei. Just flipped it all around there for you. Take AJ Dillon out, get those other 2 in. But speaking of Saquon, Forgotten Ninja has a trade question. Saquon for Justin Jefferson in a half PPR. The league starts 2 and 3 in a flex. RBs are McCaffrey, Cook, Saquon, Javonte. Receivers are Kupp, AB, Mooney, Gallup. So would you rather have
Saquon?
Okay, so you want to roll out the 3 running backs?
Yes, and also because of one, Saquon Barkley's fantasy playoff schedule is pretty good. And then, as well as, I don't want to trade a running back if I can help it. We've kind of talked about that before. But you have CMC and Cook, obviously 2 really great running backs. I think Saquon, and that's awesome. But if you lose one of those, I mean, Dalvin Cook is very injury prone in his career, as somebody that's always struggled to stay healthy. If something happens to him and you've already got rid of Saquon, now again, if Javonte doesn't take over in the second half like we hope he does, now all of a sudden you're down to CMC and Javonte, who's going to be in a committee, and you're going to wish you had. And your wide receivers are great. You have Cooper Kupp, the best wide receiver in the league this year, bar none. AB should be back here, if not very, very soon. It sounds like he's back anytime. When he was playing, he was a solid wide receiver too. Mooney's been playing great. Gallup should be okay. So I think you're in for a pretty solid playoff run without trading Saquon Barkley. So I would not trade Saquon Barkley if it was me.
Yeah. Because then you're, instead of having, let's say, Saquon or Cook, however you want to look at it, in your flex, now you're looking at Mooney, AB. You know what I mean? And
to be honest with you, that potential of CMC, Saquon, and Cook,
yeah.
Those 3 right there can win you your league by themselves. That's without adding in Cooper Kupp, who has been on an absolute just heater all year. So, yes, I'm not trading him for Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. Sit pat there, Ninja. How's Swift doing? You have to worry about his injury. Yeah, it seems like he is day-to-day just with a shoulder sprain, so maybe he misses 1 week, but I don't think it's nothing that's going to put him on short-term IR or anything like that. So I mean, you do have to worry about, re-injury or aggravation if he does come back, but it's not anything where he's going to be missing a bunch of time off right off the cuff. Trade Zeke immediately. If so, who do you aim for?
One, you're gonna have to hope that nobody in your league,
News.
saw the news about Zeke. Because if he does, the people are gonna be scared away from it, and it's gonna lower his value to where you probably just hold on to him. But I've been saying trade Zeke for the last couple of weeks because he's not been the guy. Like he's not a league winning running back. He's not somebody that's going to help win you your league. He's been getting a lot of 15, 18 fantasy points, which is fine. It's not killing you, but it's just not anything that's going to put you over the top and win you your week. And so his win rate is very low. And so that's not really what you're looking for. But if you're looking to trade Zeke, I don't know.
You think you can do it for like Antonio Gibson?
But at that point, I think you're selling a little bit low on what you should be able to get for him. What about James Robinson?
Kind of view
Jacksonville. Let me put it this way: I think James Robinson plus something, because James Robinson has the easiest schedule remaining for running backs for fantasy, and especially in the fantasy playoffs, as the number one schedule for fantasy playoffs this year. And so, because I think they play the Texans and the Jets over that span in the fantasy playoffs. So I like a James Robinson. He's a buy for me anyway. I guess Sneak Peek is probably our buy sell that we'll probably do this week. Somebody that I'm going to have in there again, just because James Robinson is the guy for me that I think you could trade for. It's on Jacksonville. People are always going to look a little bit lower on that. I still think David Montgomery could be as a really solid buy low right now. They have the second easiest playoff schedule, fantasy playoff schedule. I've already talked about Javonte. Love him, and I think he doesn't cost a lot to acquire. But I think if you're going to trade him, I'm not just trading him for like David Montgomery straight up. You need more than that, and I think you could get more than that, even if with the news that's coming out about it. And so I definitely think you could look to trade him. And like I said, I think James Robinson would be a really good piece to try to acquire if you could.
Yeah, I basically think you're looking at someone at that back end RB1 kind of range, because that's basically what Zeke has been providing you. And maybe you have to take a little bit of a hit because of the news that came out, but I'd still be looking for someone in that 9 to 13-ish kind of range in terms of what you're looking for in return. Renaissance Man, what are your thoughts on Miles Sanders moving forward? We both really like Sanders moving forward. His ceiling is capped a bit because they're still going to be involving another running back in behind him, but you got to love the fact that Philly has finally, maybe even at this point overcommitted to the run with as much as they've been running. But he came back, his first game, I think had 16 carries, something like that. So I'd like to see him utilized a little bit more in the passing game. But I think he's a really solid, mid RB2 going forward, and I think he makes a lot of sense as a trade target for you to buy if you can get him on the cheap. Let's see. So that's going back to the Cooper, Mooney, Bateman discussion.
Does they not have a bench? Is that what this is? Because I know some leagues don't have a bench, and I'm assuming if that's all he has, maybe he doesn't have a bench. And at that point, I'd probably just keep Amari Cooper.
Okay. Justin has Zeke, Monty, Swift, JT, and Hunt at the moment.
Look at that.
So take Monty off the table.
Well, it's fine though. But
still,
yeah. Two of the running backs you have are in the top 5 of fantasy playoff schedule. So, which is Swift and Monty. So love that. Yeah, I think maybe if you get like a James Robinson, like I said. And then, like I said, I think you could probably maybe even get a James Robinson plus, like something else in return.
This is going back to Anthony's Sutton born question.
If you wanted to go Russell Gage, I think he makes a little bit of sense. Just because of no Calvin Ridley, he's probably the primary wide receiver. Great matchup against the Jaguars, and so I don't mind it. So he would be the one guy that I think you could possibly consider over Courtland Sutton, but
yeah. Pittman or Bateman if Hollywood is out?
I'm going to go Pittman.
Yeah. Would you go Pittman over Hollywood regardless?
Yes. I know Pittman hasn't been the same guy the last couple of weeks, but that's also just been game script because they've been able to just absolutely rip the soul out of teams, and that's just not going to happen this week against Tampa Bay. And so they're going to have to throw the ball. You beat Tampa Bay and through the air. So, yeah.
Aaron Wallace with a standard league and needs upside. Elijah Moore or your boy Ayuk?
Brandon Ayuk.
Good Ayuk there as well. I think they probably have similar ceilings and similar upside, but Ayuk is safer as well. Again, Zach Wilson was not playing well before he got injured.
Right, and this is a game against Minnesota where you can easily beat these corners. So for Minnesota, so
fam first, Njoku or Swaim. Here we go, baby. Let's let the DFS Kevy take over here. This is your wheelhouse, bud.
I don't even think Swaim didn't even play last week. Is he playing this week? Because I know he didn't play last week.
I'm not sure. I typically don't dig down to these depths, especially a tight end.
I don't see him on here. Oh, he's questionable.
Yeah.
I'm still not playing Jeff Swaim. I'm sorry. So it's either David Njoku against Baltimore, or you try to find somebody else through waivers. But I'm assuming if this is how bad it is.
Man, how big is this league? What is this? Start 3 tight end league? Holy smokes.
Yeah, because he didn't play last week. He played the week before against the Saints. He ran 15 routes, saw 5 targets, 4 receptions, 26 yards. His route participation has not been anything great.
Are you still talking about Swaim?
Yeah. And Njoku just has a much higher ceiling, but just trying to get him involved.
Man. Yeah, I guess. I mean, they both have the same floor, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so just give me Njoku. Maybe we get one of these random one-off 8 target, 7 catch, 100-yard. I wish Njoku was more of a thing. I really thought he was gonna.
Well, it is frustrating because he's so damn athletic. I don't know. Athletic. Man, it hasn't really changed. So I'm gonna throw him out. I'm gonna throw his name out there again because of the level of tight end that you guys had that you're throwing out there at me. I think a name that we could look at. Brevin Jordan. Brevin Jordan is who I would possibly consider here. Now, again, this was a complete, game last week where they didn't really have to throw the ball very much because of, they were the lead they had. He only played 30% of the snaps, but he still ran 10. He ran 10 routes last week, same as he had, and then he saw 3 targets, which is just as much as what Brandon Cook saw last week. I'm going to go Brevin Jordan in a really good matchup against the Jets.
Hey,
I know he is 0% rostered, but he's running routes. It's a good matchup for him. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give me Brevin Jordan here. I know he has to be available.
Fine by me. Back to Lupe. In your opinion, I'm starting Chubb, Taylor, and Dylan. Am I making a good choice? On my bench, I have Elijah Mitchell and Gibson. Let's do our thing. Let's assume. All right. Let's start with AJ Dillon sets. Are you playing Eli or Gibson over Dylan if Aaron Jones sits?
I would play Gibson.
And okay. Because obviously so you're going Gibson no matter what then.
Yes.
Okay. Man. I really like Elijah Mitchell this week. You have the DVOA numbers for, like, where's Seattle sitting with their rush DVOA?
Seattle is 9th in rush DVOA. But they are 14th in adjusted line yards and 24th in second level. So they've been much more middle of the road in terms of, of that.
Right.
Which you have the LA Rams in terms of AJ, I guess we're looking at Minnesota, right? Minnesota is terrible. Minnesota is dead last in adjusted line yards, 29th and stuff, 32nd in open, 18th and stuff. The only thing that worries me with Elijah Mitchell is, one, I don't know. I would hate to play him, and then how much is he going to be? How much opportunities is he going to get? They have other running backs in this backfield. Is he going to see the insane workload that he normally sees? So great matchup, no doubt. It's one of the better run matchups that you're going to get all year. I just slightly prefer Antonio Gibson, but if you feel more comfortable going Elijah Mitchell, do that. Now, if Aaron Jones sits, you're playing AJ Dillon. So.
Okay, so if Dylan sits, if Aaron Jones sits, you want to keep that as is?
I probably would, yeah.
Okay. All right. Glad we got the clarity. Sean Webster. Need a running back. CPAT, Elijah Mitchell, or Javonte?
I'm going to go Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Elijah Mitchell. And then after that, I would go Cordero Patterson. It just worries me to play Cordero Patterson if he plays coming off a high ankle sprain. It's just not so often you see these guys, they're zapped of their athleticism. They're unable to cut like they normally do. And he is somebody that is very dependent on that. And so it would just worry me to play Cordero Patterson.
Yeah. He would be third for me for that reason. Anthony's saying probably going to start Sutton. Would you drop Bourne for Gage?
I think you could.
Yeah,
I don't hate it.
Which AJ do you want here for Jay Carter? Aaron Jones or AJ Brown?
Aaron Jones.
Let's see. It was Devontae Adams, Jefferson, AJ Brown, Deontay Johnson. 11-0. Woo!
Why do you have so many quarterbacks? Is this a super flex?
I hope so. Because there would be no reason to have Heineke with Murray and Herbert.
Yeah, so if this is a super flex, okay, I get it. But if it's not, I would automatically just drop Taylor Heineke now.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah, Swaim DNP yesterday, full practice on Wednesday.
It just they have so many tight ends. So they also have Mikael Pruitt, who could be involved. Anthony Ferkser. It's just they have so many tight ends. This is just looks like it's just going to be a nasty game for the Titans, to be honest. I mean, because you're looking at Nick Westbrook-Akeen, Des Westbrook, or what is it? Des Westbrook?
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick. Yeah, Des Fitzpatrick, who was actually their 4th round pick. They cut. They got him back to the practice squad, and then now brought back up, and he scored a touchdown last week. But like, they have nobody at wide receiver. Their running backs are gross. Like, I just don't want to play anybody from this game. I get it. Swaim could see 5 or 6 targets, and if that's the case, and I don't like. I guess you could go there, maybe because maybe he gets there, but I don't know. This is going to be a really gross game. I think the Patriots just run the ball right down their throat, and it's going to be very slow paced. So there's not going to be as many opportunities for the Titans to score. And so I just don't really love it. It could work out possibly, but going Swaim, and you're looking at other really gross opportunities as well. I think in terms of just pure upside is probably Njoku, because I mean Njoku has the ability to rip off an 80-yard touchdown. And a matchup that's going to be either they're going to be probably playing from behind, or it's going to be a back and forth affair. So I think Njoku would make the most sense. And then, like I said, I do think Brevan Jordan is interesting. Since coming back, they've really got him involved. He's not a name that most people have heard of, especially people that don't dig into the draft like we did, would probably really have no idea who Brevin Jordan is. But came out in this year's draft, really fell in this year's draft. People were kind of surprised at how far he fell, because he was somebody that has athleticism and
the college production profile.
Yeah, and so, but he just kind of fell in drafts, and he landed on the Texans. He didn't really get an opportunity until these last couple of weeks, and so he's somebody that's kind of trending up in terms of that. And so I don't. And when we're talking about tight end again. If he can catch a touchdown, I mean, this guy, it'd be a big time pickup. So that's why I think for me, I would probably go Njoku, then Brevin Jordan. But for me, because I'm a little bit riskier than everybody else, I would probably just go Brevin Jordan and what I think is going to be a really good game script.
Flappy Chappy. Someone's offering me Saquon, AB, and Dak for Monte and Hurst. Do I accept?
Yes.
Yes. Do it now. Do it now, chappers, before they realize what they have done. Little defense question here. What are your defenses after the Bills and Pats? Alex, we will be 100% honest with you. We typically do not talk about any defenses. I don't play in any leagues with a defense. The only league that I play in with defense has IDP. So
some DSTs this week that I think are not named them.
And
let me see.
And obviously Buffalo already played.
I think Pittsburgh, who should have TJ Watt back this week, correct?
He is back full practice today.
So TJ Watt is back. Mika Fitzpatrick should be back if I'm not mistaken.
He's back as well.
They are 9th in adjusted sack rate on the season. So I think they are an interesting play against Cincinnati, who don't have the best offensive line. And then you also have Carolina. If they are sitting out there against Miami, they are first at adjusted sack rate on the season with a 9.5% adjusted sack rate. So I like going after Carolina and a matchup against Miami. I think that one is one you could do. Tennessee or Houston actually is not that bad. They are in the top 12 of adjusted sack rate on the season against the Jets, against a quarterback and Zach Wilson, who has turned the ball over at a pretty high clip. So I don't mind Houston either. there in that situation. So those would probably be the ones that I would look at. Pittsburgh, Carolina, Houston would probably be the ones that I would really look at.
Shelton, wide receiver for this week and possibly rest of season, Nyuk or Claypool?
This is close, but I'm going to go Brandon Nyuk. We've seen Brandon Nyuk trend up every single week. And I think that he's starting to get to that point where he is back into the conversation for, as a wide receiver 3 every single week. It was pretty gross there for a really long time. The people that hung around are starting to get the reap the rewards, because 3 of the last 4 weeks he scored double-digit fantasy points. Scored 18.7 to 21.5 in 2 of those. And so I just think I just slightly prefer him to Chase Claypool. Claypool worries me because you're asking Big Ben to be able to actually throw the ball deep, which he has done a decent amount. And I will say the last game against the Chargers, that was the best game I've seen him play in a long time. But I'm not counting on that on a week-to-week basis. And so I just prefer Brandon Nyuk and just a better offense.
Yeah, they're both close for me, but I lean Nyuk as well. But I do like Claypool, but rest of the season, give me Nyuk. Patterson or Higgins for Anthony?
I'm gonna go T. Higgins here.
T. Higgins for me as well. Panic on AJ Brown. I don't think it's time to panic. I mean, it hasn't been looking great. I just don't think that they are in a position where they're sitting in the division to rush somebody like AJ Brown back, considering how completely void they are on that offense. With Derrick Henry going down. So if they're looking to potentially make a run and make a playoff push, they need AJ Brown at as close to 100% health as possible, and bringing him back in this week was not the wise choice.
No, and he has, don't get me wrong, he has not really been great this year. I mean, he really only has a few weeks. I mean, he had that stretch from week 6 to week 8 where he scored 16.1, 27.3, and 31.5. But other than that, it's been a lot of not good. But yeah. I mean, at this point, you're gonna have to kind of hold on to him, especially with he's out. I mean, you're just not, so.
Fournette or DJ Moore for TO?
I'm gonna go DJ Moore.
DJ Moore here for me as well. Hayden, should I trade Tyreek and Gaskin for Hollywood and J-Rob? You're just talking about J-Rob being one of your favorite buys? Or are you dropping down from Tyreek?
Hayden, see if you can get something other than Myles Gaskin. Or I guess you're trading Myles Gaskin, right? Yeah, so never mind. Correct. That doesn't really matter. For me, it's really to me, because Gaskin doesn't really matter all that much. It's really kind of Tyreek versus Marquise Brown and James Robinson. It's just tough moving on from Tyreek, man. Yeah. But I think I would make that to make that deal.
Man, Hayden, what do the rest of your running backs look like? Let us know that before I make that decision. Especially like with Casey, seems like they're starting to click now. I don't know if now is the time that I'd be able to send Tyreek away. Just Chubb. Okay. Man.
What does the rest of his wide receivers look like?
Hayden, what do the rest of your wide receivers look like?
I will say, I mean, Kansas City does have the 26th hardest playoff schedule. Now, on some level, that doesn't really matter all that much for them. But because I think we talked about Saturday night. I know they get Steelers. I think they get Cincinnati and somebody else, and maybe the Chargers, I think, in that spread. Lockett, Mike, Williams, and Godwin. I don't know. I don't know if I would make that trade, Hayden, just because you are with Lockett being so boomer bust, you have Mike Williams who's so boomer bust. They're good, but they're so boomer bust, especially in the fantasy playoffs. I mean, that could take you out. If both of them just have their typical, down weeks in the same week with just Godwin and Chubb. Now, I think you do need another running back if that's all you have is Nick Chubb. But I think, again, this is where I would try to go after a different type, right? Like, I don't think you need, like, this level. Like, I think where I would maybe be looking for Miles Sanders, which is one we've talked about. Miles Sanders should be pretty easy to acquire. Didn't do anything coming back from his injury. And
has a nice schedule.
Yes, has a solid schedule to close out the year. And so I think I would rather give up less of a piece to get a different running back than to give up Tyreek and then put yourself in. I know you're going to get Marquise Brown, but I feel like Marquise Brown's going to be in the same boat. You're going to have 3 wide receivers that are very boom or bust.
Yeah.
But I do agree you need a running back because if all you have is just Chubb, we're in trouble.
Who out of those wide receivers would you prefer to send away?
I think Mike Williams is probably the easiest to move because him coming off the big game he's coming off of from Monday. And I think if you traded Mike Williams for Miles Sanders, and I think you might even be able to get something extra tossed in. Yeah. Maybe you do like Mike Williams and Gaskin. And maybe even Hayden, you could try to see. I mean, I'm always one to, just offer it and see what happens. Offer Mike Williams and Gaskin just for James Robinson. Take out Marquise Brown. You don't need Marquise Brown. Try to take Mike Williams and Gaskin and try to offer just for James Robinson. If he says no, I would look to go after somebody like I said, a Miles Sanders or even a Javonte Williams plus.
Yeah. Deluxe. Speaking of J-Rob and Cooks for Diggs.
No. I like Diggs. Diggs has been like the wide receiver. I think he's like the wide receiver 6 over the last month of the season or something like that. But James Robinson and Brandon Cooks is just a little bit too much. Brandon Cooks has been a really solid wide receiver 2 this year. And then James Robinson I've already talked about. So I think you're giving up too much to try to get Stephon Diggs there.
Deluxe, let me know what the rest of the squad looks like. Because that's another team that I think is like finally starting to click and hit their stride outside of 2 weeks ago. But
wait, I was gonna say what? Like,
yeah,
they really only had the 1 week.
Yeah. Let me know what the rest of that squad looks like. That's why some of these trades are so hard to answer in vacuums like that without knowing the big picture. But while we wait for that, Ryan Evans has a question here: Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts?
I'm gonna go Lamar Jackson. It's very, very close. I like both of these quarterbacks this week, him and Jalen Hurts. But I'm going to slightly lean towards Lamar Jackson.
Thought we were going to disagree there. Thought for sure you were going Hurts. But I'm going Lamar as well. Sutton or Claypool rest of season? This one's going to be Claypool for me.
Yeah, I probably lean towards Claypool.
I mean, they're both hard to trust just on different levels. Like Claypool is a little hard to trust because you never know when Ben's arm is just going to die and he's not going to be able to get the ball to him. But Sutton's targets have dropped with Judy coming back into the fold. They did have that one game where, against Dallas where they just went out and smacked him around and really need to throw and that sort of thing. But over his last 4 games, 3, 2, 4, and 5. In his 3 games before that, 14, 11, and 8 for Sutton. So,
yeah, Judy coming back has really hurt.
yeah.
I have an interesting question before we get out of here. Because we're at the last question. Something I saw today that really kind of got me thinking. Naji Harris, who do you think the best rookie running back is at this point? Not fantasy running back, but who just the overall best rookie running back this year has been?
My God, what was the class even this year? My mind is so far removed from
Naji
that.
Harris, Javonte Williams, Michael Carter.
Is that it?
We're missing
Well,
Trey
obviously,
Sermon, but she hasn't been a factor.
ETN injured.
Yeah.
Kylan Hill was my number 5 running back in this class. He hasn't been playing. Elijah Mitchell, I guess, would be the other name to be up there.
I guess from just a like moving forward standpoint, who do you think or has played this? Because this is what I'm getting at. Let me put it this way. So if you look at Naji Harris on the surface, Naji Harris has been awesome this year, mainly for fantasy purposes, right? I mean, he has been excellent. He's 6th in fantasy points per game. He's number 1 in opportunity share, number 1 in snap share. But he is all volume because his efficiency numbers are fucking terrible. He's 30th in yards per touch, 33rd in juke rate. He is 39th in breakaway run rate. He is 55th in true yards per carry. And you have Javonte Williams and Michael Carter, who have both been vastly, vastly, vastly more efficient than they have. They have dominated anytime they've touched the ball, where you have Naji has been a compiler, right? And so, like, and Naji Harris, in terms of, I guess, like from a dynasty perspective, like, I guess this might be a better way to put it, because Naji Harris is also almost 24 years old. Like, Naji Harris is older than these guys are by a lot. Naji Harris is only 6 months younger than Saquon Barkley. Like, Naji Harris is an older player coming into this process, right? Where you have Javonte, who's only 21, and I think Michael Carter, I think he might be 22. But it's just an interesting, just kind of like looking at it, because I look at Naji and I'm like, well, he's been great this year for fantasy, right? Because he's been excellent. You know, he's been worth whatever pick you use them on, but he's been all volume this year. If he didn't have the volume, like, I don't know where he would be, because we might be talking about something different. And I'm not saying Naji Harris has necessarily been bad, but he just hasn't been efficient. And now it doesn't really help that their offensive line is not very good and has been banged up. And then you also have Big Ben, who's very limited in what he can do. It's just, I think moving forward, I think Naji Harris is a very short shelf life in terms of how relevant he's going to be, versus I think Javonte Williams, and I don't think this is a hot take, is going to be a top 12 running back next year. And I think it's locked, like he's going to be a locked in top 12 running back next year when we get to August, when we're drafting, because he's going to be the only running back in that backfield. And we've already seen how efficient he can be as a runner. Now you give him more opportunity. He's going to be the lead back, and he is going to be locked in as a top 12 guy next year. So I guess in Dynasty, would you rather have Naji or would you rather have Javonte Williams?
Probably Javonte. Just, I'll see the man. Because I was going to say with Javonte, because with Dynasty, you're only looking at a 3-year window anyway, right? Like, anything outside of that, like, I know people like to be like, oh man, I'm going to have, Deshaun Watson for 12 years as my quarterback. Like, you can't think. I think my very first team that I drafted for Dynasty, the next year, I think I had 5 of the same people on that team, like between trades and, just people, like guys not working out and shit like that. I wanted to say Javonte because I think they go out and get a big time quarterback to come in, like that's something that's been floated around for a while. But the Steelers are going to have a shit ton of cap as well. Like, they could easily go out and do something at quarterback too. So it's, I think Javonte, but it's super close.
I think Javonte's a better running back. Just off, like you took one to the other. Like I think Javonte is the best, and which everybody knows that has been following this account for all the way back to that time, that I have always been Team Javonte and I've always loved him. But he has pretty much confirmed everything that I thought that he was going to be all the way back, in March and February, whenever we first started looking at these guys. So, anyways, hey, look, I can talk dynasty with the best of you. Okay, so Robbie, get me on that dynasty show with you and Tom. I'll take you guys to church.
Anyway, Ali wants to know Russ or Taylor Heineke this week. This is going to be Russ for us. We know that it's been really bad the past 2 weeks, but this matchup, if he can't get it right in this matchup, then maybe we're looking at plugging in guys like Taylor Heineke over here. And I know Heineke's been playing well, but we're going to go Russ on that one, Ali. Thanks for joining us. Ian Phillips, Gibby, or Sanders?
I'm going Miles Sanders.
I give the edge to Sanders as well. Like that matchup a lot for him. And Howard doubtful as well. Jonathan Koff, DK, Cooks, and Clyde for Kelsey and AJ Dillon.
I don't want to be the guy who says it, but you took an L on this one. You give up way too much. Kelsey is great, obviously, but AJ Dillon has a very short. Like I said, Aaron Jones very well could be back this week. He's practiced all week. He may play this week. As soon as he gets back, AJ Dillon is okay. He's still, like I said, he's still a viable flex option every week. But Aaron Jones is the lead back in that backfield, and so at that point, you kind of, and then you have DK Metcalf, who has struggled a little bit, but he's still been pretty solid. I think he, over the last part of the season, kind of takes off. Cooks has been a really solid wide receiver too, and we saw CEH come back, and still really wasn't involved in the passing game at all. But it's still going to be a better option than AJ Dillon.
Yeah, I would much prefer the DK side of this one, Jonathan.
Yeah.
We don't want to be wet blankets, but it's a wet blanket.
Yeah.
When do we think Michael Carter comes back? Looks like the chat got us here. They said it was a 2 to 4, 2 to 3 week injury. Obviously, he wasn't placed on IR, so they're not expecting this to be a long-term thing for him. So he should be back here probably 2 weeks.
The only thing that would worry me with that situation is that I've talked about is the third team that's out of it, and it is, I believe it was a high ankle, right? And high ankle sprains are always trouble for running backs because of what it does to them. Usually is an injury that takes longer. I believe it was a mild high ankle sprain, is what they called it. And if it does something that takes a little bit longer, I could see them just shutting him down, because at 3 weeks, you're on to week 15, week 16, right? So at that point, there's only a couple of weeks left in the season. And so, it's kind of teetering on, do they even bring him back? Do they just sit him the rest of the year? Because what's the point of bringing him back? Under his rookie deal, they're not going anywhere. They're not a playoff team. There's no reason to rush him back. So that would be my only concern with Michael Carter, is if they possibly don't bring him back. Now, if it's not, it truly is something that's minor, maybe he's back next week. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, a mild high ankle sprain. Someone dropped Russ. Okay. So if Ollie doesn't get Russ, Heineke, you talked about liking Tyrod. We're not going to consider Bridgewater here. Who do you like between Taylor or Tyrod?
It's really close. I think both of them offer similar things, right? Because both of them offer, something on the ground, which is one thing you look for in a quarterback that you can get. They both offer, I think, similar upside in terms of passing game usage. I slightly prefer Heineke.
Same. Yeah, I agree. Mr. Curly Wolf, Sanders for Godwin. Which side do you want?
Oh, yeah. If you can get Godwin. Yes, I think you make that move. The only question who are your we're going to turn it into a long one. Who do you have at running back? Like, where are you going to be left with if you get rid of Miles Sanders? I think you're winning with Chris Godwin getting that in that deal. It's just, man, I'm always so scared to trade running backs because, like, we see them get hurt all the time, and like it just can wreck you. And so I try to stay away from trading running backs for a wide receiver. But who are your other running backs? If you're solid running back, then I think go ahead and definitely do it.
Okay, TK. What's next? Should I be worried about Waller and Swift? I have both.
I mean, they both said they're minor injuries. So, like, I don't think there's really anything all that concerning to be worried about with them. It sounds like they both escaped serious, which I kind of felt like, even with Waller. Like, I mean, he was out there the whole time for the most part in the first half. He was still trying to look like he was trying to get loose. He was riding the bike and everything else. And then went to halftime and he came out, and that's when he went into street clothes. But it didn't look like he was anything serious. And it was kind of the same thing with DeAndre Swift. And it looked like when I was watching that game, I don't know if anybody else saw it, but on the sideline, they in the second half, they flashed to him like in street clothes. And didn't look like he was very happy. Like he was very happy that they pulled him. Like maybe he probably felt like he could go back in there and play. But I don't know. I'm just reading, whatever his body language was on the sideline, but he didn't look like it was anything that was serious. He didn't have any sling on or anything like that. He was moving around fine. On the sideline. So I think he'll be fine too.
Cam or Burrow?
I'm going Cam.
God.
I don't mind Joe Burrow. So you look at that matchup for Joe Burrow, right? And the Steelers have been susceptible to big games, right? We saw it against Justin Herbert, right? We saw Aaron Rodgers earlier in the year. And then they also have a lot of matchups just really against really bad offenses that they really haven't been pushed, right? But this offense really wants to run the football, but that's exactly what the Steelers want to do too. And in terms of pace, like it feels like a really slow pace type of game. And so Cincinnati is 31st in neutral game script pace. So they are one of the slowest offenses. They want to run the football. Pittsburgh wants to run the football. I don't know. But we have seen Pittsburgh be susceptible to that as well. Big games, like I said, where we saw, Justin Herbert. But I do think with getting TJ Watt back, with getting Minka back, I think that's going to help this defense. And so I just prefer Cam Newton and his rushing upside.
Yeah. Matchup probably sets up better for him as well. Yeah, I'm going to go Cam there as well. Said I wanted to see it once before I felt comfortable throwing him in, and he looked fine there. Back to Jonathan's trying to help him, regain this edge on the trade here. What about trading Kelsey away? Who would you shoot for?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could get didn't he have another? What was it? Oh yeah, he acquired. Okay. Jonathan, what is the rest of your, again, it makes it's a lot easier to figure out what you should do or who you should trade or what you could get or what really position you need to go after. If you could tell us the rest of your squad, at least your running backs and wide receivers, to kind of have an idea of who to go after. But with Kelsey, I think you could probably get maybe you try to get like a Saquon. Aaron Jones, I think, could be a buy. Again, you could go to the team that we've talked about with Miles Sanders. I think he's somebody that you could pair him, and get actually more for, get a running back and a wide receiver for Kelsey in that situation. As far as wide receivers are concerned, Deontay Johnson, I think, is a definite buy. Somebody like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, plus somebody else would be aware of. You could go after that. Yeah, those would kind of be the guys that I would look at.
Yeah, now Curly Wolf, you can make that trade, sending away Sanders to get Godwin.
Yeah, with those running backs. Yeah.
Although you had Wall in the lineup, I'm gonna need the most points I can get. Who do you like here between the Philly? My God, the Philly defense over Houston.
Yeah, I would probably go Philly.
No, yeah, I'm rocking with Philly there. Slay's been playing well. I think he's had a couple turnovers the past couple weeks. That run defense has been playing a little bit better as well. I think there's probably just a better chance we see an Eagles turnover there. Greg Joseph over Nick Folk. Who does Nick Folk play for anymore? This is what happens every time we get kicker. I literally
Nick Folk plays for the Patriots.
Okay. And I knew
Greg Joseph is Minnesota's kicker.
Yes, I knew that because I have him in my only other league that plays kickers in my dynasty league. Who did I have? I can't even remember who I had before that. Anyway, doesn't matter. Folk or Joseph?
I think I'd probably go Nick Folk. It's just I'm always looking for kickers who are in the best games, right? Because they can score the most, right? And not they can score the most, but the offense can score the most because it's all like what we like. We had a video over the offseason that essentially, and what is true is kickers that are on the best offenses, because point after attempts is really what matter over anything, which seems odd. But when you're talking about an offense that can score 4 or 5 touchdowns every week, that's automatic points plus the touchdowns you can get. Where Nick Folk, I mean, this game against, like I said, with Tennessee, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Patriots only score 3 touchdowns here. I don't know. It's just. Yeah, I'd probably go Nick Folk, but I don't really know what to expect from this game. It just seems super gross. But yeah, I think Nick Folk probably makes the most sense. But I don't mind the Greg Joseph, but I think I would go Nick Folk. He makes the most sense.
Yeah. Jonathan, we just went over that. So sorry if you missed that one.
If you did, you should be able to just rewind back about a minute or two at the most.
Last one here, then we will get out of here. Andrew wants to know Nyuk, Waddle, Elijah Moore, or Judy.
I'm gonna go Waddle.
First two. Yeah, as I say, it's between the first two for me. Yeah, I think Waddle. His targets are locked in. Could always end up being a Debo week, a Kittle week. Waddle's all they got. So I'm gonna rock. I'm gonna rock there with you, Kev. I'm gonna go Waddle over Nyuk. I do like that group though, Andrew. So good job there. We appreciate you guys. We'll be live again on Sunday morning. If you are into player props, we will be live Saturday night. Not sure who's going to be rocking with Kev on Sunday. I will be out of town, so I will not be here, but still going to be going live for you guys. We'll still be here on Sunday and then Sunday night as well for the waiver show. If you are new to the channel, seeing some new faces in here, please hit us with that sub if you would be so kind. Check out the Discord as well for any other questions you have. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you all soon.